How's your golf game?
It's trending. We're doing all right. Off season, got the simulator in the Browns facility now, so that's helped a little bit. I've been playing pretty good. I think I'm floating around a 10 handicap right now, so pretty solid.
Kevin told us the simulator was a recruiting tool for getting you back.
It might have been. It might have worked. Early in the off season, I was in and I was kind of working out and playing golf, and Kevin would walk by and AB, and I was like, at this point, if I told him I wasn't playing, it might get a little weird. You know what I mean? Like I've been like using the golf simulator every day, but no, it's that's funny. That's a good part of it.
So Joe, you've earned a few perks over the course of your career, and one of them was you don't need to be at this stage of the off season. But you wouldn't do that 5 years into your career. Could you speak to what you think is the importance of the OTAs for the team?
Yeah, I think there's a process that you want to get your offense installed, you want to get your defense installed, you want to get your foundation of what your standards of a team are, all that stuff, and then you want to get reps of guys getting reps at doing the technique and learning the technique. And I got to a point in my career personally where it was the extra reps versus how my body feels. And so I've kind of worked through that over the last few years. And like this year, I've been in meetings. I've been in the weight room with the guys. I've been working out. I've been in, Berea all off season. So I've seen that. I've been around the guys. And it's really just a process of getting guys reps and building your depth and finding guys. Because truly, I don't think anybody makes the team or doesn't make the team in OTAs. But you get a foundation of, what you want your team to be.
So the last time, a few times we talked to you in the off season, this was obviously a big decision for you to decide whether or not you come back. Now you've been back for a while. How does it feel to be back? Or do you feel like you 100% made the right decision?
Yeah, it's been great. I was truly like, it was truly a decision. Like this off season, like I was at the end of the year, I was truly deciding if I wanted to play anymore, and I kind of sat at home for a month or two and was in and around and talked to my wife, and we just like went through the process, and I was like, I could still play football at a high level. I still want to play football. And after the discussions with Coach Stefanski and Andrew Berry, and they don't tell you like who they're drafting or anything, but just the style of offense we were going to run, who we're going to try and bring in at quarterback. Offensive line coach, Coach Bloom was a big part of it. He was just, we went to dinner a couple times and just talked on his philosophies. All those things played in, but at the end of the day, I was like, I'm not ready to be done. I want to play more, and I want to play in Cleveland, and that was kind of my mindset.
So as a veteran, how important to you is it that the team choose the best quarterback to win this season rather than to assess their future?
Yeah, we want the best guy. I think I said that on a radio spot I did, but we want the best guy. We want the best guy to compete. And, you understand that the team has a duty for future years, but I think going into the season, like, we're going to put the best guys out there, and we're gonna try and win as many games as we can. We know we're in a tough division. We know the AFC's tough, but I think we have faith that we're gonna put the best guy out there.
Joel, last year fell apart like it did. Joel, you've had a chance to kind of sit back and maybe analyze that.
It was kind of a snowball. I think we started out and we just didn't perform to expectations, and we could say it was the scheme and the players that were there and stuff, and I think it just comes down to like we weren't good enough, and then we kind of let that affect us, and by the halfway point of the season you're out of it, and guys we struggled to put wins together. We had a little spark when Jameis came in, and we beat Pittsburgh and like Baltimore, and we're like, all right, we can play with anybody in this league, and that kind of, to me, that showed that we still had the ability. And we just couldn't put together wins. The Denver game was close, and you win a couple more of those toss-ups early on. I think it kind of changes things. But overall, I think we just had the wrong mentality, and I think Coach Stefanski's already stressed the toughness that we need to bring back, how practice is going to be. I think not mini camp, but the rookie mini camp and the OTAs have already kind of picked up that tempo. We're not resting on any laurels of playoffs or anything like that. It's a new team, and we have to establish our standard and what we want the Browns to be.
Joel, this offseason is what Andrew Berry did. Just, what's your view on it, and how much, did that make your decision easier?
Yeah, I already had obviously a relationship with Joe Flacco. We bring him back. Kenny Pickett, from everybody I've talked to and been around, I've golfed with him a couple times. He's just a guy that wants his chance, and he's hungry to prove that he can play in this league. Then you draft 2 young quarterbacks. So I think the quarterback room, like, we have 4 guys that are going to compete that, like I said, we want to put the best guy out there and kind of see where we are. I think we did a lot with our defense. You bring in a young top 5 pick at defensive tackle. You sign a couple other guys to bolster their defense, and you hope the defense can come back to 2023 and be one of the best in the league, and the offense can ball control, run the ball, play action, do all the things that you want to. That's like the picture you paint, and you see where you're at, and that's what we're kind of hoping for. But hope is an easy word. We're trying to work for it, and we're trying to put the group out there and try and win some games this year.
Joel, you and Jack were both very vocal right after the season about the offensive scheme and getting back to sort of what the identity of this football team. How much do you feel like what Tommy and Kevin and Mike are sort of putting together, how much does it kind of get back to the roots of what this team identity should be?
Yeah, for me, it feels like a 2020, 2021 install of the outside zone with power schemes mixed in, which I think is a strength of, what our line does. Obviously, we're a little bit older, but like Jack comes from that outside zone. Wyatt is one of the better pullers, power blockers in the league. Poe can kind of do it all, but I think it fits us so much better. And then for an O-line, like, you drop back 40, 50, 60 times a game, and that's still going to happen. You still have to pass the ball to win in this league. But if you can have a brand of, like, we're going to take care of the football. And I think the way we won in the past is, like, our defense was fresh. Like, the games that they play great, they play 50 or 60 snaps, not the 70 or 80 snaps a game. And so if we can control the ball and handle those things, I think it's a big step. But from the installs and from what I've seen, it's going back to what Coach Stefanski has been known for.
Is that where the toughness, we're establishing the toughness starts? That scheme you just described?
Yeah, we got to be tough up front. We got to turn 2-3 yard runs into 4 and 5 yard runs. Our defense has to be tough. It's all toughness. It starts training camp and just having that ability to go to battle. And when things do not go, it's a long season. You're going to lose some games, but how do you bounce back? How do you not let one loss turn into 2? And so yeah, we got to be tough up front for sure.
Joel, do you go into this season after you made that decision thinking this is the last one, or will it be every offseason?
I think it's going to be every offseason. I definitely am not going to take like a retirement tour. I think we're filling this out 1 year at a time. If I go into next offseason and I'm feeling good, like, we'll see what we got left. If we want to still play, but right now I'm just focused on this season and playing for this Browns team.
Joel, you mentioned Coach Bloomgren. Like, what have your first impressions been of him? Can you go in a little more detail on that and you guys going to dinner and stuff?
Yeah, he's been positive. He's a true, like, O-line coach. He gets nitty-gritty in the details. He's focused, every day on getting some better. You feel his energy. Like, he was a head coach, obviously, for a long time, but he worked with Stanford and the Jets, and, he's pulling up clips of, like, David DeCastro in college, like, pulling and stuff. Things where you're like, all right, this is some O-line stuff right here. And so you get these clips, and then he gets out on the field, and you feel his presence. The O-line coach kind of, like, needs to be for like return. You need that, and it kind of rubs off on the guys. And he's been great. I think he's developing the young guys, trying to get them work. But it's been awesome. We had dinner. He just kind of talked about his philosophies and his family, my family, what we expect. And he's like, oh, you could play for 4 more years. And I was like, all right, we're talking a little crazy now, but no, it was good. And so far, so good.
DeJuan Jones looked good in uniform to us Wednesday. What do you see?
Yeah, I think he's lost some weight. I think he's focused. He's rehabbed. He was pretty much here all off season, rehabbing. I think he's focused, and I think he knows, like, all right, you're going to play left tackle this year, so he can just work at it, focus at it. But he's ready to take a step, and I know he's, you get close to those contract years and stuff, and I think he wants to put a healthy season together. And if he stays healthy and can pass pro and do the things that he can do, like, it'll be good for him.
Last one here by Kelsey.
Joel, this event, you've been a part of this for many years. This is the 25th year. Why is it important for you, but other players to also be here, and the importance of this event?
Yeah, Browns give back, and everything they've done with staying in the game and building the fields out in Cleveland is pretty special. I tell people about that all the time. Like, I'm like, you know, you hear headlines for the Browns and stuff, but what they do in the community, charity-wise, is special. And this is their biggest fundraiser of the year. You get to come out, play a great golf course, have some fun, interact with people. But it's a great cause, and to help the people that, you know, cheer us on and help us is really a no-brainer for us.
So, which quarterback competition was your favorite?
In my career? That's a long one. I don't know. We'll put it in the book. Me and Dan will put together sometime. You know, we'll talk about our QB competitions.